Okay, so as we continue for our DMA50 review quiz, when we have an equation in the form y equals mx plus b, this is called the slope-intercept form of the equation. When you see the word slope, slope refers to the letter m, and the b is referencing the y-intercept. The y-intercept, as you recall, is when you plug in 0 for an x value. This is a very special because we have our x and our y, but the y is a special letter called the b for the y-intercept. So when you're asked this question, the form y equals mx plus b is called, you would choose slope-intercept form. When a linear equation in two variables is written in this form, what is the slope of its graph? The slope letter is the m. And 0, what is its y-intercept? You would choose the letter v. Okay? So it's the slope-intercept form because m is the slope, b is the y-intercept. Per capita consumption in pounds of all beef in a given country is given by this function. C of x equals negative 0.22x. So C of x equals a negative 0.22x plus 66.3. Where x is the number of years since 2000. Since meaning after 2000. Find and interpret C of 6. So x is the years after 2000. So if you're given C of 6, that means you're going to plug in where the x is, the value 6, and solve to get your solution. So if we were to do this, here on our calculator, we have a negative 0.22 times 6 plus 66.3. And that's going to give us 64.98. Whoop. 64.98. So that would be the amount of pounds. The per capita consumption of beef was our answer for pounds in the year, and the year number we would give is 2006. So the consumption was 64.98 in the year, and you would give 2006 because 6 is the number of years after 2000. If they ask you what about the year 2011, no, excuse me, 2012, let me adjust that, I thought it was 11. So if they ask about what about in year 2012, you're going to do 2012 minus 2000 gives us a value of 12. So now we're going to solve C of 12. So we would do negative 0.22 times 12 plus 66.3. And that's going to give us our value for the year 2012. So a negative 0.22 times 12 plus 66.3 is 63.66 pounds. 63.66 pounds. Okay? So you're just substituting the value they're giving you for x. Graph the inequality. Y is less than 6. So we're going to graph y is less than 6. You can go to your calculator and you can key this in, or you could easily make your own little chart here. In this equation, we're being told that y, if it's less than 6, our y value for every ordered pair is going to be 6. X could be any number. I'm going to use, let's say, a 0 and a 4. Okay? So when I go to graph, I'm going to be at 0 and go up to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I would go over 4 and then up to 6. Now, for this equation, if you recall, if you have less than or greater than, we use a dashed line. If we have less than an equal or greater than an equal, we're going to use a solid line. So since ours is an inequality, there is no equals, we're going to use a dashed line. And then we are going to shade if y is smaller or less than is going to be below the line. So where we would shade would be here. On the calculator, what we would do is we would just type in the number 6. And since we had is less than, we move in front of the y equals. We would change this to less than instead of the greater than. And then when you press graph, you can see your graph. You see the shade in the blue at the bottom. If you go to second table and look at all the ordered pairs, every y is a 6. X can be any number that you would like it to be. Okay? So here on the computer screen, choose your line tool, make it dashed, go to your point, graph one point, graph the second point. Here is our paint bucket. Choose the paint bucket, and we're going to shade down beneath. And that's what your graph will look like. The only difference with inequalities from equals is that it's either solid or dashed, and you have to shade either above or below. Graph the linear equation x equals 0. Okay, very similar. However, this one we cannot do on the calculator because we don't have an x equals button. Okay, but if x is equal to 0, for every ordered pair that I would want to graph, every x value is going to be 0. Your y can be any number. So let's say I'm going to make it a 7 and a -2. Okay? So if I'm going to graph this, x is 0. That means I don't go left or right. I stay on the line, and I'm going to go up to 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? If 0 and then -2, I don't go left or right. I stay on the line. I go down 2. Now on the computer, when you do your 2 points, they are going to connect, and we are going to have a vertical line. Okay? There is no shading because there's no inequality. So if we come back here and we go to graph, we choose our line tool. I can graph 0 and any point here, 0 and any other point there, and as you see, I have a yellow vertical line. Find an equation of a line with a given slope that passes through the given point. Write the equation in ax plus by equals c. This is called standard form. We're not going to be concerned with that until we finish writing this in slope-intercept form first. Okay, so we're given m equals 4. No, excuse me, m equals -4. Okay, m equals -4. And we have an ordered pair of -3, -8. -3, -8. So where we begin with this is we're going to identify all of what we have. We know the slope. We know our x is -3, our y is -8. So let's use y equals mx plus b. We are going to plug in m, x, y, and then we're going to solve for b. Okay? So we have -8 equals -4 times -3 plus b. -8 equals, A negative times negative is a positive 12 plus b. We're going to move our 12 to the left by subtracting it. Negative 8 minus 12 is negative 20 equals b. So now let's write equation with numbers for m and b, only letters for x and the y. So that means we have y equals m is negative 4, the letter x, b is minus 20. So we now have used the special m and b and written in this form. They want the answer in the form ax plus by equals c. So what we're going to do now is move the mx part to the left of the equals. So when I take a negative 4x and I move it to the other side, we always do the opposite operation. And what's the opposite of it being a minus 4x? That means it's going to be a positive 4x, bring down the plus y, and bring down the minus 20. This would then be your final answer in the form ax plus by equals c. So as I said, work with slope-intercept equation as you go through, and then you can convert it here. If you use the view an example, those things, they're going to use the other equation that I showed you, the y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. That would make you work through with that equation. It's absolutely fine if you do that. This is just an alternate way to do it that sometimes I find people make less mistakes with their positives and negatives when they don't have as many variables in the same equation. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Graph the linear equation by finding and plotting its intercepts. This is the key on this problem. They want the intercepts. Okay, so negative x plus 2y equals 2. And we want to graph the intercepts. Okay, so when we graph the intercepts, this is the way I set mine up. We're going to start with a little chart, and I'm going to color code this one. When we do our intercepts, one intercept, we're going to plug in 0 for x, and we're going to solve for y. For the other, we're going to plug in a 0 for y, and we're going to solve for x, okay? So we're going to do it both ways. So if I do the first one, I would have negative a 0 plus 2y equals 2. So that means 2y is equal to 2. Divide both sides by 2, and y simplifies to be 1. For the second one, we would have negative x plus 2, I'm plugging in a 0 for the y, equals 2. So we have negative x equals 2. This is an understood 1 here, so we're going to divide both sides by negative 1, and x is equal to a negative 2. Then we're going to want to take this and we want to graph. They specifically want the intercepts. So at 0, 1, we would have a dot here for 0, 1. And then at negative 2, 0, we would go left 2, stay on the line. And then these 2 points would then on the computer be connected. But when they graph the intercepts, they want where it crosses the axis on the y-axis and on the x-axis. In 1998, there were 1507 daily newspapers. So 1998, there were 1507 papers. and then they tell us in 2005 there were 1458. 2005 there were 1458 newspapers. What they want us to do is to write two ordered pairs in the form. Okay, so here's the parenthesis. The X is the years after 1998. The Y is the number of daily newspapers for this situation. So we're going to write the two ordered pairs. So the ordered pairs are going to be, the first one is going to be 0-1507 because it tells you starting at 1998. So 1998 is a 0. The second ordered pair, the Y, is 1458, but we're going to have to do here 2005 minus 1998, and that X value is going to be 7. So that would be the two ordered pairs. Then they want you to write the equation. Well, to do the equation, we need to find the slope first. So remember, when we find the slope, we subtract our Y's and we subtract our X's. So for my Y's, I'm going to have 1507 minus 1458, and I'm going to have 0 minus 7. Okay, so my denominator is a negative 7. And then let's do 1508. No, excuse me, 1507 minus 1458. So 1507 minus 1458. That's going to give me 49. And 49 divided by negative 7 is negative 7. So that is my slope. My slope is negative 7. So when I write my equation, I know the slope is negative 7. I also know what the b is. Remember, the b is the value when x is 0. So come and look at that first ordered pair here. Guess what? That 1507, that is our b. So my equation is y equals negative 6 plus 1507. I didn't even have to do any extra work to look for that. It was in that first order pair. Last part of the question says the number of daily newspapers in the year 2000 is how many? Okay, so in the year 2000, we're going to do 2000 minus 1998, and that's going to give us a difference of 2. So we're going to solve this equation, and we're going to plug in 2 for the x. So we would have y equals negative 7 times 2 plus 1507. So we have negative 14 plus 1507, and that's going to give us negative 7 times 2 plus 1507, 1,493. So 1493 would be the number of newspapers in the year 2000. And that is 2 years after 1998. Graph the solution set of the inequality on a number line, then write it in interval notation. So they give us 5 is greater than or equal to x. 5 is greater than or equal to x, which is greater than the number negative 2. So when we are graphing this particular equation, and they want us to use interval notation. For this one, they're not using the open and closed circles. They're using the shapes that we use with interval notation. So just as a reminder, if you have less than and equal, greater than and equal, you would use the square brackets. If you have less than or greater than, you would use the rounded parenthesis. So that's what we're going to identify, and we are going to go to the 5 here, and we have an equals, so we're going to use the squared bracket here at the 5. At the -2, there is no equals, so we're going to use the parenthesis. So when we write this in interval notation, we always write this from small to large, which in this case is left to right. So at the leftmost point, we have a parenthesis, then we have the -2, comma. The farthest right is a 5, and we have a square bracket. And that's it. Identify the intercepts. So here we are just writing the two values, the x and the y intercept. So for the y-intercept, that's going to be the one on the y-axis. So the y-intercept is on the y-axis. For the y-intercept, it's the x, that's the 0. For the x-intercept, that is on the x-axis. So that means we have a number for the x and a 0 for the y, okay? So let's come here and let's look carefully. So on the y-axis, for my x value, it's on the line. We don't go left, we don't go right, it's on the line. So it's 0, and then it goes up 1, 2. So we would write the ordered pair 0, 2 for the y-intercept. For the x-intercept, that's the one on the x-axis here. So the x is going to go left 1, 2, but then it does not go off the line for the y, it stays on the 0. So this would be -2, 0. And you're done, okay? You're just writing the intercepts. Find the slope or pitch of the roof. When we do roof pitch, let me jot this down, 2.6 and 8.6. 2.6 and an 8.6. So for the roof pitch, it's like the slope. We are going to do rise over run. Think of it this way. The rise goes up or down. The run goes left or right. So which value is the up or down? That would be the 2.6. The run would be the long distance. That would be the 8.6. So all you're going to do is go to your calculator and you're going to do 2.6 divided by 8.6. You get a decimal, and then let's go math, enter, enter. And it simplifies to the fraction 13 over 43. 13 over 43. Okay, let me stop here for just a moment. Okay, so we have 2.6 over 8.3. We're going to use the calculator, and after you key it in, 2.6 divided by 8.6, you press enter, and then you're going to press math and enter 2 more times, and that's going to give you your final answer here and in the fraction form. Fill in the blank. The slope of a horizontal line is it 0, negative, positive, or undefined? So you'll get a question. It may be a horizontal line, it may be a vertical line. they may give you an equation. So for this one, a horizontal line, the slope is going to be 0. But let's take a moment and review each of these because you don't know which of these you're going to get. If you have, and if the line is left to right, it is horizontal. The slope is a 0 because it's flat. If you have a vertical line, which looks like this, straight up and down, the slope is, special word, undefined. If you have a slope that goes up, left to right, that is a positive slope. And if you have a slope that goes down, left to right, that would be a negative slope. Okay? So it'll be one of those 4. And you would just choose from the drop down what would be the correct answer. Find the slope of the line that goes through the given points. We're just finding the slope, no equation, okay? So let's write down negative 2, 2, negative 2, 2, and we are given negative 4, 8, negative 4, 8. Okay, all we're doing is find the slope. So, all right, so if we have x, no, wait a minute, excuse me. We're going to do our y's on the top, our x's on the bottom. So we have 2 minus 8, and then we have negative 2 minus negative 4. Okay, so just use your calculator. 2 minus 8 is negative 6, and then negative 2 minus negative 4 gives us a positive 2, and then 6 divided by negative 6 divided by 2 is going to give us a slope of negative 3. Use the slope-intercept form to graph the equation y equals negative 8x plus 5. Y equals negative 8x plus 5. They want you to graph, so you're going to use your calculator, and we're going to key this in. Go to y equals, hit clear. Now in this case, I'm going to come back and I'm going to get rid of the shading because for this problem, I'm going to go back to that regular just little slash mark because we're not shading here. So we have negative 8x plus 5. Negative 8x plus 5. We're going to press graph to view it. It's a negative slope, it goes downward. And then we do second table to pull up our points to graph. So we use the calculator, we go to y1 equals, we type equation, and then we press graph to view. If you're not at the correct place, remember zoom 6 is the standard view, and then you do second table for your points to graph. I'm going to graph the point 0, 5. I always like to graph the one with the 0, and our graph goes as big as 10, only to 10 and negative 10. So when I choose points, it can't be bigger than 10 or negative 10. So if I do 0, 5, I'm also going to do 1, negative 3. I always recommend write the ordered pairs down on your paper when you are doing your test. So here we're going to graph, line tool, 0, 5, and then 1, negative 3. And that would give you your graph. Write an equation of the line with the given slope and y-intercept. Now this one you better not miss. M equals negative 2 So they're telling you m equals -2, and they tell you that b is equal to -1/4. And all they're telling you is to write the equation. The reason you can't miss this is because we know y equals mx plus b is our slope-intercept equation. So we're going to put y equals, we know we've got an x, and then we're going to plug in those values. M is -2, b is a -1/4. And that's all they want, is for you to write that equation. And I know several of you are wanting to test this week, and we only have a couple of questions left. So we're going to go a few minutes over the 30, but I do want to go ahead and get these in, especially for those who are getting ready to do their testing this week. Graph the inequality. Y is greater than or equal to 1/2 x minus 5. Y is greater than or equal to 1/2 x minus 5. And we're going to use the calculator to do this, okay? And then here I'm going to write down the two ordered pairs. Now I already know one of my points is going to be 0, -5, because I know if I plug in a 0 for x, y is going to be -5. So let's come here, clear. We're going to do our 1/2 x minus 5. It's a positive slope. It's going to go upward. I go to second table to get my points. I don't want to try to graph any of these that have the fractions. I want to choose the ones with the whole numbers. My graph only goes as big as 8 to -8, 8 to -8, and I've chosen 0, -5 for one. And let's choose 2, -4 for the other point. 2, -4. Just choose any point, and that's not a decimal there. I'm trying to get it to go away. There we go. Okay, so when we're here and we're graphing, we need to use a solid line. So 0, -5. And then we said we're going to do 2, -4. So write 2 down to -4. And when we shade for this one, let's come back to the graph. Oh, we didn't put the shading in. Let's come back here and let's do that. It is greater than or equal. So that means we're going to move back in front, and we are going to choose, that's the greater than, that's the less than. So we're going to choose the greater than. We're going to OK it. And so we are going to shade above. So let's come back and let's shade above the line on our graph. So here, shading tool, and we'll shade above. If a projectile is fired straight up from the ground with an initial speed of 64 feet per second, then its height in feet after seconds is given by this function. H of t equals -16t squared plus 64t. Find the maximum height of the projectile. Keyword here is maximum height. Let's think back. We are to find the maximum height. When we see max or minimum, what are we solving for? The vertex. So you're going to use your steps to find the vertex. So we're going to go to y1 equals, and we're going to type in -16x squared plus 64x. And we are then going to find the vertex. So y equals I need to come back and get rid of this. Okay, so we have, let's clear, negative 16x squared plus 64x. Don't try to use the letter T. It will not graph correctly if you do. We're going to press graph, and we're looking to find the vertex. Maximum means it's going to be up top. So we're at zoom 6. We're now going to do zoom 0. Okay, we see the maximum is at the top. We're going to do second trace. Maximum is number 4. We are already left bound from the vertex, so we're going to press enter. Then it changes to right bound. So we're now going to move right bound. Let's keep going. Swing on past the vertex. Now that we're to the right of it, we're going to press enter. On guess, we're going to press enter. And our maximum, when x is 1.9999, let's say it's 2, it's going to be the ordered pair 264. So 264 is the ordered pair. That's the x and the y. We're looking for the maximum height. So that is going to be the y value. So our answer is going to be 64. Graph the linear equation. So we have y equals 2x, and we want to solve for each of these values. So if x is 0, all right, let's come to y equals 2x. We're going to fill in our chart for x and y. They're giving us a 0, a negative 2, and a 2. So we're going to go to our calculator, y equals, we're going to hit clear, and we're going to type in 2x. Okay? Second table, and if we come back to our chart, if we want to know when x is 0, y is also 0. X is 0, y is 0. When x is negative 2, y is negative 4. When x is 2, y is positive 4. So we're just plugging in the value. We'll look at the graph. All right, now this is one of those, see how we're kind of way out of the way? We're going to go zoom 6 to go back to our standard view. And we're looking for a graph that has a positive slope and goes through the point of origin. Okay, that has a downward slope. We can eliminate A, could be B. We can eliminate C, it could be D. It's either going to be B or D. Let's make one of them bigger, and let's identify 0, 0, negative 2, negative 4. So if I go left 1, 2, and down 1, 2, 3, 4, oh my gosh, it's on the line. If I go right 2 and up 1, 2, 3, 4, it's also on the line. So in this case, B is our choice. If I had looked at D, I could see if I went right 2, 1, 2, and go up 1, 2, 3, 4, it's not on the line. Same thing with negative 2, negative 4, it's not on the line. So you can eliminate 2 and then use the ordered pairs you have to determine from those others. Find the vertex of the graph of the quadratic function. Does it open up, down? What are the x and the y intercepts? And then we're going to choose the graph. So we have negative x squared minus 4x plus 5. So we have negative x squared minus 4x plus 5. Okay, so the first thing we want is the vertex. So go to y equals, we're going to clear, we're going to do negative x squared minus 4x plus 5. And we're going to press graph. Our vertex is at the top, so it's the maximum. Second trace, number 4 is maximum. We are going to move our cells left bound to the left of the vertex, press enter, and we're going to move to the right of the vertex and keep moving to the right of the vertex. We're going to press enter. On guess, we're going to press enter. So our maximum is -2, +9. So my ordered pair is -2, +9. When it asks, does it open upward or downward? It opens downward. It would look like the letter U if it were upward. So this one opens downward. When they ask for the x-intercepts, we want to know where does it cross the x-axis. And either there's no x-intercepts or there's 2 x-intercepts. Okay? Here it crosses at this location and this one. So to find those, we're going to go back to y equals. On y2, we're going to put a 0. Now we're going to find the intersection of the lines here and here. We're going to do it twice. Second trace, number 5 is intersect. And all we got to do is move it over to the left. So let's tap left. Doesn't have to be perfectly on it, but near it. Press enter 3 times until you see the word intersection. So -5, 0 is one of the points, -5, 0. And now let's do the intersection on the other side. So again, second trace, choose number 5. And we are going to press the right arrow and we're going to move it to the right side. Once it's somewhere near, we press enter 3 times. And this one is +1, 0. When they ask us for the y-intercept, I just use the calculator, do second table. The y-intercept is always when x is 0. So 0, 5 is the y-intercept. 0, 5. It's always when x equals 0. And last, they want you to choose the graph. So as I scroll down the page, it opened downward, so it could not be A or D. And also, when I notice which one that it is, when we look at the graph, the vertex is in quadrant 1, 2. The vertex is in quadrant 2. So when I look at the pictures, this vertex is in quadrant 1, this vertex is in quadrant 2. So it would be letter C. Graph the linear equation by finding and plotting the intercepts. Y equals 2x plus 6. Okay, so y equals 2x plus 6. When they want the intercepts, you're going to plug in a 0 for x, solve for y. So if I have y equals 2 times 0 plus 6, that means y equals 6. For my other intercept, I'm going to plug in a 0 for y. So 0 equals 2x plus 6. So I'm going to move my 6 to the other side. So -6 equals 2x. Divide both sides by 2, and x is equal to -3. And then on the graph, you're going to graph 0, 6, and -3, 0. So here, we're going to graph line tool, 0, 6, and -3, and -3, 0. So the intercepts, you have to graph the points that are directly on the line. The graph shows data from a recent satellite internet connection. The connection service billed at a rate of how many cents per second? So what we're going to do is, for this problem, we need to find the slope, the rate, which is the slope. So I would come to this image, I would make it bigger so I can identify these 2 points. Okay, so the first one is the ordered pair 10, 60. 10, 60 is one ordered pair. And let's write down the other ordered pair. This one is 20, 120. So 20, 120. So write down your 2 points. And then to find the slope, we're going to have 60 minus 120. And we have 10 minus 20. 60 minus 120 is a negative 60. 10 minus 20 is a negative 10. Negative divided by negative is a positive, and 10 goes into 60 6 times. So we're looking for a rate of change, which would be, in this case, 6. So 6 would be our solution. Find the domain and the range of the relation. Okay, domain is the x value. We read it left to right. The range is the y value. We read it from bottom to top. Okay, so let's identify these. So for this illustration, let's make it larger. The domain left to right. So if I look on the x-axis, this is the leftmost point. It's not -2. I'm looking at the x-axis. So if I have this point go up to the x-axis, it's at -1. So it starts at -1 and then it goes right, has an arrow, it goes forever. So that means we have -1 and forever is infinity. There's a dot at -1, so we use a square bracket. Infinity always has a parenthesis. The range is the bottom to top, the y values. So this is still the same point, but now I'm looking at the y-axis. So the bottom point, if I slide to the y-axis, is -2, and that is still going to continue going up and up and up to infinity. So we would have -2 to infinity, square bracket with the -2, parenthesis around the infinity. Find the slope of the following line. 3x minus 4y equals 12. 3x minus 4y equals 12. All it says is find the slope. So you're just going to rearrange to y equals mx plus b. Okay, so we're going to start by bringing down the -4y equals, this is going to come across and become a -3x. Just bring down the plus 12. Then you're going to divide each term by the -4. Y equals negative divided by negative is a positive 3/4 x. Positive and a negative is a negative. 4 goes into 12 3 times. So the slope, all you're going to give is the number 3/4. Do not put the x with it, just the number 3/4. And for the very last question, forensic scientists use the following function to find the height of a woman if they are given the height of her femur bone, F, in centimeters. Find the height of a woman whose femur measures 40 centimeters. Okay, so we're doing H of F equals 2.59 F plus 47.24. And they're asking us if the height of the femur is 40. So that means we're going to do 2.59 times 40 plus 47.24. So the height is going to be clear, 2.59 times 40 plus 47.24. And that gives us 150.84. 150.84. And type an integer or decimal, it does not say round. Okay, so that would be the height. And that's it. It's the last one.